We came within millimeters of absolute societal chaos yesterday. The response has been unsatisfying, underwhelming, inappropriate, at all levels of the commentators, in entertainment, with celebrities, and yes, with the Walt Disney Company. Today, we will expose it all. Hello folks, welcome back to the Pro Channel, where we endeavor to explain entertainment, keep you ahead of the culture curve. Joining us today is Culture Casino. How are you, sir?
Very good. Thanks for having me, Pro, and good morning.
Good morning to you, and it's a much better morning than it could have been. Folks, you all know what happened yesterday. We don't have to specify it any more than what you've seen all over the news. But depending on which news you were watching, you saw very different headlines, very different takes on it. And if you've been reading the responses on X/Twitter, then you may have discovered that some of the commentators and opinion makers out there who lead the way in entertainment conversations, they're not very good at handling the gravitas of a moment. Folks, we don't normally cover politics here, and I don't think we're going to today, because I think this is deeply profound and more philosophical than mere politics. The reason that we don't typically cover politics on this channel is for the same reason that when you hire someone to come be your dentist, for example, when you go and you sit in the dental chair, you don't want the dentist to talk to you about politics. You want them to fix your teeth. And that's the way that we approach this each and every day. Is we have a job to do. Our job is to explain entertainment, keep you ahead of the culture curve. It's not that culture doesn't have political beliefs. It's not that I don't have political beliefs, but we have a job to do. Today, those jobs intertwine. And so we have to talk about the political landscape today in a way that we don't typically. If you don't like that kind of thing, then you can check out right now. But this is so profound and such a big moment that we need to discuss it. Culture, let's start today with Grace Randolph, and I feel sorry for Grace in this situation because people have bad takes, but this is an atrociously bad take. And Grace, of course, is a YouTuber who has built up millions of followers, and she commentates on entertainment and movies and streaming. And Grace, yesterday, just very quickly after what had happened, came out with this post on X and said, "This is just getting insane in every possible way. I don't want to talk politics anymore, as this is getting very serious no matter what happened." And then she goes on to do it. "And no matter who is on the ticket, no matter what happens, I will be voting Democratic come November." It's just a complete misunderstanding of what's happening at that time. Culture, it doesn't matter who the person is aligned with in terms of politics. When an assassination attempt is made, the correct response, and by the way, people died, or at least one person has died, and other people in the hospital. Yeah. The correct response is to try to unite everyone and be in prayerful thought about what has happened, and to recognize the gravitas of the moment, to recognize that we were within millimeters of the world being thrown into absolute chaos. I can't even imagine what would have happened. The RNC would have been thrown into chaos. The convention would have been thrown into chaos. Who would have been the replacement would have been thrown into chaos. The entire country would have, doubted then, who's actually in charge. Democracy truly would have been thrown into absolute upheaval because, I don't want to go too deeply, but in other words, we were at the precipice of a very, very tumultuous months, years, maybe civil war, and we would have been waking up this morning to riots all over the country. That didn't happen, but for a millimeter. And you've got people coming out and making these kinds of comments. Let me read one more to you, Culture, and then I'll get your take. I know I'm a little long-winded on this. This is out of it's Florida Tourism Oversight, yada yada yada. This is another Disney commentator, and it's not someone who's a small deal, I don't think, because this individual has talked with people who are part of Disney attractions and all sorts of things. And I'm not going to read this because it's profane. I'll read what's not profane and say, "No thoughts, no prayers. Blank him and all he stands for." And again, it's just utterly depraved in the way that these people are responding. And for me, Culture, what it makes me do is it makes me begin to look for the people who have sober and thoughtful and grounded opinions in these kinds of moments, because I don't want to follow people who are out of their mind in these kinds of moments and expect them to give me logical and cogent thoughts on a daily basis on other stuff. What are your thoughts here?
Well, I think that there's a problem. We've created a culture through media that essentially takes some of people's opinions far too seriously. We have the ability as human beings to be very reactionary, which at times maybe isn't our finest characteristic. And in this particular situation, I think that the media bears a lot of responsibility for the divisiveness that's been occurring in this country. And I think that yesterday was put on display, unfortunately for Grace and many others, that when they think about politics, they're incapable of having a rational thought because it's ingrained in them in an emotional way. And when studies have been done that have indicated that when people who claim to be very politically active, and when those studies are done on them, it's found that they only react with the emotional part of their brain. They turn off any form of logic or anything else. I've been guilty of reacting to things far too quickly and then having to, post a mea culpa or whatever. In this matter, though, it incensed me, not at anything other than the people that were involved in the attempt and the media, because they're largely culpable. But pointing a finger, doing divisive statements, not feeling for the innocent victims, in the crowd that just were there, and of course, the former president. There was a moment there when we would have been enveloped in chaos, and I don't think it would have taken very long for civil unrest to have become something greater. So having
Absolutely.
people that are supposed to be responsible members of the media react in the way that they did truly expose them for what they were. And I like I said, I understand Grace is emotional, but the worst time to put out that was then. Support of our country should be paramount. It should be the first reaction to this.
And in all fairness, she did clean this up somewhat. I think, as you said, a mea culpa was in order, but she did say later on, after she deleted that other post, I would like to live in an America where we can disagree without hurting each other. That applies not just to today with Trump, but the past with Pelosi, Whitmer, and all the days ahead. Now, the Whitmer thing, by the way, is a hoax.
It was
So Grace doesn't even know what. I mean, good Lord. Anyway, enough of Grace. Enough of Grace. Even in your mea culpa, you can't even stick the landing. Good grief. But Culture, I think your point there is very important. We're going to get to Disney in just a moment, which is, I think, a separate issue, because when you mentioned that these commentators, many of them have risen to where they are because they're reactionary, and their reactions are such that people tune into them for the entertainment, the meta entertainment of entertainment. And so all they know how to do is be reactionary, and so they react in the same way they would to a movie, and it really doesn't work. It doesn't translate into this other domain. Others, I think, they need more criticism, and we'll get to Disney again in just a moment. But Kotaku senior editor Alyssa Mercante mocks the attempted assassination of President Donald Trump. This, I think, deserves a huge amount of attention. This is a person, I think, who's deranged, and we don't need deranged people to be in charge of media organizations. Here's what the article says out of thatparkplace.com. Kotaku senior editor Alyssa Mercante mocked the attempted assassination of President Donald Trump. Mercante took to X, where she posted a photo of a stormtrooper and wrote, "Trump shooter revealed." In another post, she referenced Fallout's combat system and wrote, "He didn't use VATS." And then later on, she would actually, have more fun with this. Again, completely missing what we just almost, devolved into, which is a maelstrom of absolute societal and worldwide chaos, where lives would have been lost. And it strikes me as so immature as to be on the border of insanity that there's someone dead and there are two other people who are critically wounded, and a former president and the leading political candidate for the presidency is injured, and you're posting memes about a stormtrooper. I mean, I think that's disqualifying for Alyssa Mercante, and she's been plenty disqualified before, but I think it's totally disqualifying for her to be in charge of any kind of influence. I think she needs to be working, on the Slurpee machine somewhere on the side of an interstate at a gas station. That's the level of responsibility I think she can be appropriated at this time. Am I wrong, Culture?
No, you're right, because with responsibility comes consequences. We've talked about that, and in the old days, I mean, you hear the constant claim that if you said the wrong thing in person to someone, which meant you were in their vicinity, you might feel the consequences of that, because people would and do react, as I said before. There are things that require consequences. I certainly wouldn't happen to know what they should be for Alyssa, but she should certainly be made aware that she lacks, obviously empathy and many.
These are very
things.
These are very, very low resolution thinkers. That's what we should come away with. These people do not have the mindset to be in charge of putting out information that sways people one way or the other. I mean, I'm for the marketplace of ideas, and I'm for the marketplace of any kind of thought you want to put out there, and let it be tested out by free speech and free discourse. Let it be merited out. And I think this is one of those situations where that's been done. Let's assess it, and let's say whoever came up with this, that's a brain that needs some recalibrating, because these are the kinds of thoughts that are just atrocious. Now, Culture, going up another level. So we started off with the YouTube thinkers, the reactionaries, as you said, and I do feel sorry for some of those who their lives are based on reaction. They react, and it doesn't work in this instance. I understand they needed more time, and they should have given themselves more time. And then we go up to that next level, which is editors of vlogs, blogs, and all of that.
Well, news gathering organizations, right?
Well, but that's the next level. So at the top level, the people who really know what they're doing, and these are the people who are highly adept at moving the narrative in whichever way they want to go. Let's take Disney, for example. Very soon after the events of January of years ago, Disney put out an immediate statement, and Bob Chapek put out a statement, and Bob Iger put out a statement. There were all these statements. Culture, in the wake of what we've just seen, where again, 99.99999% chance that we would be having a horrific discussion today. And everybody would have been awake and watching chaos unfold. Someone turned their head, and the breeze was such that it missed by a millimeter or more, whatever. And the reaction from Disney, which runs ABC News, has not been anywhere in the same ballpark, in the same league as what they have done for the other side. And that's where I get really displeased with supporting this company. Walk us through the response ABC News, which is a subsidiary of Disney, had, Culture.
Well, I would say it was repulsive. It was undercovered at every step. This is one of the headlines I captured yesterday. The mainstream media is culpable, not only in perhaps support of these efforts by the madmen that are out there, and I guess women.
Is there a statement from Disney proper this morning, Culture?
I haven't been able to locate it.
There's not. Is there a statement from Bob Iger condemning political violence in an attempt to take out the leading candidate?
Not that I've seen. No. Yeah, and again, I mean, the dramatic underreaction by the media to being even truthful within just a few moments of this event happening. Not only did everybody in the world via social media have access to real-time video clips, images of things that were happening on the ground, and the best headline that they came up with over at ABC News was to dramatically underreact. with their
Well,
headline.
it's politicization and censorship of reality.
Yeah.
And so we would be incensed if this were on the other side as well. We're not
Yeah,
trying
yeah.
to be partisan. This is far more profound than mere politics. We are talking about something that could have thrown the entire world into chaos.
Yeah.
And we're watching a subsidiary of Disney take that information and filter it in such a way as to try to play politics with it. And that's where the disgust comes in.
Yeah, dramatically underreporting this. And, I was a bit angered yesterday because, to me, the action against any political candidate in this country is detestable. So
well, the former president and the leading candidate was shot.
Yeah.
He was shot and people were killed. And the headline from ABC News, ran by Disney, controlled by Bob Iger, affiliated heavily with China, is that there was a disruption.
Yeah.
But they're not,
they weren't the only one to dramatically underreact and filter this. CNN was culpable. NBC News was culpable.
Yeah, but CNN doesn't try to get to my kids with their their streaming service either.
That's true.
Disney does, and Disney, with Bob Iger at the helm. Bob Iger came out of ABC News. Bob Iger was a weatherman.
Yes, he was.
And Bob Iger needs to get this fixed immediately. And the politics need to end because there is something more at the base of society and civilization than politics. And that is that we cannot exist in a world where we censor and where we filter and where we narrative build situations that could actually, set us back and send our country into massive civil unrest and actually damage democracy. And if that's what our entertainment conglomerates are doing, then they're atrocious and they need to be called out like what we're doing in this video. Culture, I'll give you the final word on how this has been handled at all three levels. So we talked about the reactionaries at the lowest level, right? And we kind of feel sorry for some of the reactionaries because they don't know what they're doing in these moments. And then we went up to the next level, which is the editors and the vloggers and the bloggers, and they do know what they're doing. Maybe they hope they'll go under the radar. Maybe they hope they have a niche audience that will never hold them accountable, and they're never going to be mainstream, so that's okay. And then the highest level, we've got these corporations, and they are, just like you mentioned with CNN, but Disney more profoundly because they're after our kids. They are driving a narrative that perhaps it's finally been made impossible by this. Give me your meta and macro analysis.
Well, I think it is all a function of scale. I think the scale between the three levels is dramatically different because the reach or access to the public is different.
That's a good point.
I think that you're probably looking at it the right way when it comes to Disney because they are linked into all four quadrants, which, normally we refer to as in the movie business is, all the available demographics. In this case, Disney's probably one of the few of the news gathering mechanisms. And so they are the most culpable in driving a narrative that would, lead to people being angered, frustrated, or any other thing. They all not to mention the fact that when covering things inaccurately, they really are doing a disservice to generations. And by driving any particular narrative, which in this case was to dramatically underplay an attempt on someone's life.
Right. Flag should be at half-mast because we were within a millimeter of societal chaos.
Yeah. And I don't think they appreciate the gravity. And if they do, then that's telling you something. And I think that's very scary.
Folks, make sure that you assess who has the honor of spending time with you each day. It's not me trying to tell you to spend time with me or with culture. It's more broad than that. It's more profound. It's deeper by far. By leaps and bounds, it's deeper. But when people are reacting in a very poor way, or when corporations are manipulating you in a very particular way, consider if they deserve your time or not. And I think that's important. Time is the most valuable thing that we have. And yesterday, someone wanted to take away the time and the choices of millions and millions and millions of voters and throw our society into chaos. So who are you going to spend time with? I think it's a valuable question to consider today. All right, folks, it's not the kind of video we typically make. We'll get back to the business of normal very soon, but only so long as entertainment allows us. If this continues to be a story, and if it, gets into a situation where celebrities are making, foolish comments, then we'll go there. We could have, by the way, had a discussion about how quickly some of the major celebrities have responded to far less when it has aggrieved them of their political positions. But in this situation, many of them are eerily quiet. We're not talking about that yet. We might. We'll see. But folks, we'll continue to cover entertainment as best we can. When it intersects with something more profound, we'll go there. We have no fear of it. Make sure you check out Culture Casino with that game place, as well as the Culture Casino YouTube channel. Hardest working man on YouTube, no doubt. And folks, we will see you very soon. Like, share, subscribe, and drop a comment down below. And remember, when you drop those comments, don't be reactionary in a way that gets you into trouble. Think deeply on the things you have to say. Be truthful, be kind. All right, folks, wherever you are and whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.